That's Neil? He's a model?
Hey, maybe he's a supermodel.
An unidentified idiot.
I know that this is my destiny. I was at my lowest, he saw the best of me. All of my doubts are the rest in peace. Buried them deep in the leg, I can work with the rest of me. Yes, I am blessed, never stress, disconnect from all my demons. They can never get the best of me. Truly blessed to be a...
Good day, good afternoon, good evening, my fellow nomads, party people, and strangers everywhere across the internet. Man, I haven't done that intro in so long. My name is V, and welcome back to Nomadic Reviews. Now, I know I promised you guys this whole big collaborative review with my big brother Casey, and it's coming. It's coming. We just gotta rewatch the series. I ain't gonna say what it is, but it's jazzy. Anywho, before we get into that episode, which has been long in the making, we're going to be talking about a show I recently found due to the fact that I've been trying to do a retrospective involving X-Men that I hope to have done by 2030. It is a lot to work on, and I need a lot of help on it. And that is Class of the Titans.
Class of the Titans is an original creation from Canadian television network of Teletoons. Originally ran from December 31st, 2005 to June 22nd, 2008.
That mostly focuses around a lot of young heroes that are the reincarnations of various other heroes throughout mythology. And Artemis, for some reason, I feel like they were trying to say Atalanta, but then they just kind of dropped the ball. I don't know. Anywho, all of these heroes and more have been brought about to stop the Titan of Kronos for various confusing reasons when you look into how things work out in a lot of different medias for how this fight works out. Hi, Percy. So, how am I supposed to really talk about a program that barely a lot of people remember and hasn't been on the good boy Jordan Fringe's channel? I love that guy. Him and Billiam. Well, let's dive into the show proper, at least with the first 3 episodes, and we will actually talk about it. Let's jam. Our series begins with a celestial event happening that causes Kronos to break free from Tartarus.
I've waited 4,000 years for this moment.
Cool, I think. Anyway, from this instance, we then have to focus on the primary protagonist of Jay, the reincarnation of Jason. You know, everyone's favorite mythological hero that screwed over his wife to then try to marry somebody else after betraying the 2 gods that he prayed to in order to get said wife, who then saved his life more times than not, but is still heralded as a hero, but labeled his first wife a psycho bitch for what she did to their children.
This is actually fucked up.
Yeah, that Jason from Jason and the Argonauts. He's being pursued by a few different monsters that came with Kronos to prevent him from the prophecy. What is the prophecy? I will allow the Oracle to tell you.
7 heroes. Teenagers. They can stop you.
Mortals.
Yep.
This can't be right.
Oh, I love hero prophecies. They always work out so well. Hi, Percy. So, aside from Jay, who else are we meeting from the first instance of these occurrences? Well, we have Atlanta, and we have Harry. Atlanta being, of course, the reincarnation of... again, this is so confusing. Why is she Artemis? Wouldn't it be better suited for Atalanta, who is an actual female hero in Greek myth? I don't know. And Harry is the reincarnation of Hercules. Which, come to think of it, that also doesn't really didn't Hercules, or Heracles as it's better stated for Greek, become a god, the god of heroes and the god of strength? What is really going on, Canada? So, their whole bout is to first stop Kronos as an incomplete team, because there are supposed to be 7 heroes that unite to prevent, stop, and topple the power of Kronos himself, the Titan of Titans, the King of Titans, not to be confused with the God of Time, who is also unfortunately called Kronos. We will have a lot of different discrepancies involving how wrong the Greek myth is from here. In any event, though, the heroes end up finding out that they're just not well equipped to stop Kronos in the first episode. But luckily, we meet the rest of the team throughout the upcoming episodes, like Odie, who is the reincarnation of Odysseus. We have a pretty girl who is supposed to be the stand-in for, well, Helen of Troy. We have this guy who's voiced by Double D, who is the reincarnation of Achilles. And lastly, we have Neil.
Neil, at last we meet.
Big fan, huh? I suppose you want an autographed picture.
Oh, very kind of you, dear boy, but I have much bigger plans for you.
Neil is the comic relief because he's the reincarnation of Narcissus, who is not a Greek hero, but just an idiot who drowned himself trying to make out with himself.
This is stupid!
Oh, this show. I love how stupid this is, even though I can clearly tell what the marketing was for this.
Yeah, well, I think I'd make a better DJ than him. I mean, just look at me. I'm handsome, personable, and coordinated beyond belief.
Gosh, ain't I repulsive?
Still, throughout the entirety of just the first 3 episodes, which are just kind of like a made-for-TV movie special, the heroes do end up finding a way to come together in a grander spectrum to become more realized heroes. As the series progresses from here, it's just the pilot itself is supposed to showcase what the danger is, who the heroes are supposed to be, and all of the gods and goddesses that will be aiding them in their affairs. Whether it's Persephone, who is just vibing because she's here for the spring and summer, away from her loving husband of Hades, who is not a bad guy in this adaptation. Listen to this, fucking Hollywood. We have Hera, who is not being a psychopath for once. Hear that, Hollywood? We also have every other hero's favorite god of Hermes, and we have a janitor. Don't worry about the janitor right now. It's not important. So, yeah, that is the pilot for Clash of the Titans. A bunch of heroes that help out the gods stop a titan who is mistaken as a god. My brain hurts from that explanation.
Hold up. Hold up.
If I were to go into all of the heroes proper for characterizations, we'd be here all day. So we're just going to focus on the primary ones that we're going to be focusing on more than others. Most notably, we're going to start off with Jay. Jay, as the protagonist, is a little bit of a strange beast. He is the hero that leads the heroes, but he's not the best at being a hero. He's more self-conscious than his counterpart, to where he's always questioning himself, he's always doubting himself, and he's always at odds ends with himself, to where no one really knows how to really approach to help him. And Jay has a lot to really go in to aid himself in a lot of different regards. But still, throughout the series, you can tell that his leadership skills are a lot better than Jason, to where he actually has heart to what he needs to do, and he knows how to stand up for his friends. Granted, when you get to a certain episode involving the reincarnation of Jason's wife, he is a bit of a scumbag. But no, I will not show that clip because it makes me mad every fucking time. Second character, which is the apparently reincarnation of Theseus, of Teresa. Honestly, I still think she would have worked out better as a reincarnation of Helen of Troy for redemption stuff, but whatever. Her storyline is strange, mostly because there are certain aspects for her character that roughly make her a different kind of mythological person in Greek history that kind of foreshadows something else, but they went with Theseus instead. So it's a little strange. I'm not gonna lie. It's very, very clumsy, but they handle it in a way that's not awful or off-putting. If anything, it's very interesting to kind of dissect what it is that you're going into. It's just a little bit strange about how you're going to go about it, if you know what I mean. You gotta watch the show to understand. But even still, with Teresa's whole character arc being probably the most compelling between the 2 seasons, you can really get a grasp that her story really needed to be fleshed out and finished with a 3rd season. But granted, due to the fact that Jay's voice actor of Kirby Morrow passed away, may he rest in peace, I don't see this series getting a good revival unless we find someone that can really carry the same charisma and charm that Kirby himself brought to the role.
His power is almost like the wind tunnel!
Well, Father, but didn't you just run away?
I can't let myself depend on you to handle everything for me.
In any case, though, we're gonna focus on one last hero, which I know probably a few people would be like, oh, it's Harry, oh, it's Archie, oh, it's Odie. No, we're gonna talk about Neil.
Where are you? Wait, we should hear him out.
God, no!
Come on, Neil. Ping.
Neil as the comic relief is probably the most underestimated event for something like this, and I blame Critical Role for why I'm doing this analysis. So when I'm mentioning Neil in the same vein of what Critical Role has done for me with a lot of joke characters, mostly from the voice actor extraordinaire of Sam Riegel.
She named all of her creations after her favorite smells.
Joke characters tend to also be the ones that you can bring out the most story from without there being a lot of focus drawn to them overall. Where Neil is probably the most complex due to the fact of he is labeled the quote-unquote pretty one, but he's also one of the most empathetic and probably the most heroic from how he actually does put a lot of his own pride and other sort of vices behind himself in order to help out his friends and colleagues. Most likely more than a lot of the people written in the show tend to give him credit for. I mean, sure, we have Odie, who is the brains, Harry, who is the bronze, Archie, who is the most athletic male, alongside Atlanta, who is the most athletic female, and so forth and so on for the team. But Neil is truly the heart of the show for the teens, to where he actually can be more than Narcissus could ever have been. Even during a few episodes where he did try to put his career first, he did oftentimes try to make sure that he himself was never the true person to take up more than what was necessary for the entire environment. And I appreciate that in a character that kind of goes beyond just the joking archetype to then also go toe-to-toe with a big bad like Kronos. Speaking of which...
Ah, Atlas, how are you? That does look heavy. Well, I'll soon be taking some of that weight off your shoulders.
We're going to talk about the reason why I had to look up this show in the first place, and that is Kronos himself being voice acted by the same individual that voice acted as Professor Charles Xavier from X-Men Evolutions.
But steel is forged through fire, and like it, we have been made stronger. We are prepared.
Look forward to that review coming in 2025. Now, Kronos as a character is probably the most complex to talk about because in every iteration that you guys could talk about him for, he is very confusing. There are people that revere the Titans as probably the true liberators for humanity because they were the people that made humanity in the first place, with Prometheus and Epimetheus, with the fire giving knowledge and Epimetheus giving shape to humanity. Kronos, being of course the king of the Titans, was more than just a horrible father to his children. No. He was also just a decent king to many people in mythos during the golden age of humanity when they were first made. However, there are also the Greek purists that often view that Zeus and his siblings were the ones that did the better interpretations of how to handle stuff with humans when the cosmos belonged to the Olympians, and various other sources that kind of go into play, where in fiction it's even more confusing with Percy Jackson having him be just this ultimate being that will conquer the universe by destroying the entirety of Olympus should he be resurrected. There are other instances to where he's just out to kill all of his kids because they liberated themselves from him to then just try to skewer him dead. Oh, look, Lord Olympus. There are so many different iterations, but this one is the most confusing because you don't really get the overall grasp over what truly is Kronos other than just a cartoony villain. We know that from the eyes of the heroes and all the gods, he was just this terrible person that did a lot of terrible things because of terrible reasons. But then you're just sitting back and it's like, what is the pure motivation for why he's evil? The reason that Kronos became who he is was because he wanted to liberate his mother from the tyrannical rule of his father, of Oranos. and he was soon prophesized to where he went mad because it was a Greek tragedy, to which led to Zeus conquering over his father, and eventually Zeus's son will kill Zeus to then make a whole new batch of gods and goddesses, but that's a whole nother bag of worms. So without that connotation, why is Kronos evil? Why is he the villain? It's oftentimes just very confusing because without a pure motivation for why the villainy is the villainy, sometimes certain villains don't work. It's not just being evil for evil's sake. This is something based around a lot of different mythologies and a lot of methodologies around why Kronos is a villain. But you don't really have anything other than he was imprisoned in Tartarus for reasons of being a bad guy, and that's about it. We don't get any other explanations, just he's a bad guy. And that's what's got me the most confused whenever I look at this guy. He just kind of looks like someone that would be on The Apprentice or Shark Tank.
This is too painful to watch.
I'm glad none of my editors wanted to just do the obvious jokes, so I appreciate that. The writing from Clash of the Titans comes strictly from the mandate from Teletoons, which is to keep it light, keep it PG, but don't skew it to where it can be adulty PG. What I mean is, the reaches and bounds for what PG used to be, if you guys look into certain things from certain other review channels, is a lot more astute than what is today. That is to where we couldn't have a lot of gore, a lot of different death scenes, any swearing, any provocative stuff. We could allude to adult themes, but nothing too egregious, nothing too out of the norm for what could or could not be. As such, you can tell that for a series based around a lot of stuff involving Greek tragedies, that this had to be watered down for a lot of different reasons that I'm not opposed to. I get it. But it also kind of showcases why certain shows that were rated G were more PG than what we've had since the big boom from the 2000s leading into the 2010s. Like, even for the stuff I'm going to be doing a weekly review series of with Gargoyles, as a prime example, that is a G-rated show that's more PG than anything, with blood, violence, death, a lot of different things of betrayal, and a lot of different things that lead into more adult themes than ever before. And that's just pushing the envelope of G. This could easily have done the same thing to be thought-provoking, very on the nose about what it was trying to talk about. Even later examples I could bring up, like Owl House, or anything from the realms of regular show being a PG program, to be pushing the envelope for what can and cannot be provocative for the audience and the viewership of the children at all sorts of practices. You could do these things while still being in the realm of being child-friendly, telling stories that could tell a message without trying to dumb it down and water it down. And I'm not saying that Canada can't do it. Canada's done a lot of different programs that have been very thought-provoking, very interesting, and could push the envelope when the studios would allow it. Don't worry, Rock and Rule, you're on my list. It's simply that this could have been written to be a lot stronger, to where it could have held a lot more ground if given the opportunity to do so. Maybe if we did a reboot/revival, we could talk about it in a much greater detail, but as of right now, with just the original, it's fine for what it did, but it could have been a lot more. If you get what I mean, you get what I mean. I'ma live forever. If we're talking animation for Canadian television, we are not doing this today. Animation's fine. You could find the same outline details of what this show has done with X-Men Evolutions, and you would not be disappointed. You guys could also see the same make and model for what would be more of a cell shading-ish sort of stylization for stuff like Total Drama in certain regards, and most notably in Surf's Up, I believe, and 16, meaning that Canada and its animation department, I am not trying to throw shade on. What you guys are doing, it's fine. I'm not gonna be upset with whatever you guys do. You're fine. You're lovely. Just take this trophy and go. Take this trophy. Get out of my fucking office, Canada. Get out of my fucking office. I'm the realest in the business and every. Overall, the show is fine. What do you want me to say? It's fine. Okay, fine. The show has promised to be what it is for anyone that's trying to look up what it is for more family-friendly mythos-based content if you don't want to look into stuff like God of War or reading into the later chapters of the Percy Jackson saga that really get into more adult themes the more you think about it with how war handles itself, the trauma, the PTSD that follows suit with it all, the survivor's guilt, and everything else. And there are many other myth-based productions that really are not meant for kids because this is not a medium that's meant for children. Clash of the Titans does a decent enough job that does a lot better than certain programs I could think of, to where it's more respectful than what it needs to be, it's more attentive to the audience it's trying to serve under, and it's a fun ride. Are there a lot of mythological inaccuracies? Oh yes! There's so many inaccuracies. But I'm going to save that for the mythology guy. I like that guy. And his card game. But until then, that is all I'm going to say. It's a fine program. It's not perfect, because it's unfinished, and you can tell it's unfinished from how the cliffhanger of Season 2 is for its cancellation. But it's fine. It's not a terrible program to sit down and watch if you're a fan of animation, or if you want to just show something for your kids about, this is what I grew up watching. This whole program right there. Right at the time of this recording, it is available for you to watch for free on the streaming platform known as Pluto TV, as well as a few different channels on YouTube that I ain't gonna be snitching about if you know the channels I'm talking about. They showcase a lot of different clips, or sometimes just some full stuff if you're really looking closely for it, that can bring about more stuff about what you're looking for, or you can probably find it for purchase over on Amazon.com for DVDs and or different episodes that are up for purchase. In that same regard, the rating for Clash of the Titans, where I will probably be doing a weekly retrospective to update my review at the time to then go into Magi critiques, I will allot this entire show firstly with I'll be generous and say a 9 out of 13. It's not a terrible program, but just need a lot of polish, get a lot of things more handled. Maybe make Kronos less of a cartoony villain and more of a complex individual that had a goal in mind for what he was doing with different machinations, kind of like a David Xanatos. God, I really need to talk about gargoyles now. After that, though, I will be allotting this entire program firstly for the second part of 4.5 out of 7 stars. Will its rating rise after the weekly reviews when I do it? Probably, but also probably not. We will see when the time comes. And lastly, for the grading system. I've gone back and forth with this, but the only thing I'm going to be able to give this is a C+. Good job, great effort, I love what you did with a lot of different stuff, but if we were to hammer out a few things like making the heroes come to terms with what their legacies actually meant, like Jay really touching on how Jason really wasn't this beacon of a hero and he has to clean up the mistakes of who his ancestor was. That's a good point. Having Harry with a different super-powered ancestor, that's something we can also touch on where he doesn't have to be just that reincarnation. And also having Atlanta be the reincarnation of Atalanta makes a lot more sense, TV. Get that shit together. Having these certain things and making the villain more complex, the dangers more written out to be a lot better, the dialogue not being just super kitty blah blah blah, you end up with a lot more of a complex show that really matches up with what a Greek tragedy could have been for this entire televised program for the youth. You don't have to dumb it down for kids to understand. Trust me, I know. I've raised countless kids at this point, and I put on a lot of complex stuff that they've since quoted and made themselves into super geniuses today. But yeah, that's my whole rating for this. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have been a beautiful audience, and I hope you guys enjoyed this entire video. This was all completely off the top of the dome, much like Magi Critiques. If you want more scripted reviews, look forward to my return to Marauders Reviews. Marauders Reviews will be coming back in the next few weeks, if not the next 2 months, with at least 2 to 3 different videos to kind of go into a bigger premiere, once we also condense all of the parts into a condensed video in its entirety. So look forward to those videos, look forward to the big review I'm trying to get with my brother, Just need to finish rewatching some stuff, make better notes, and we'll be golden. So, with all that said and done, you guys be good, be great people, stay stylish, and mwah, I love every last one of you. Except for you, Phil. You know what you did, Philip.
Boy, you crazy!